get David out here for us, would you please?
He went home already.
Let's give a big hand to David.
Come out with white paper basket.
All right, continue on.
Our next speaker tonight is Mr. Roger Cerrone, who with his wife, he lives in Williamstown. He was born and raised in the Walnut Street area of North Adams, in the same neighborhood that Johnny Georgie grew up in. He went to Haskins School, and in 1957, he graduated from Drury High School. Later, Roger went on to Brown, where he excelled both athletically and scholastically. He returned to North Adams, and from 1966 to 1976, Roger served as the football coach at Drury High School. Later, he went on to become the principal. Today, Roger is retired, and he's an avid golfer. It's a real pleasure to have with us tonight Mr. Roger Cerrone.
Thank you, Mike. In addition to myself, I also represent the guys from State Street. They've been telling me more lies than I'll ever remember. And also, I like to echo some words from Coach Allen, Johnny Allen. John wanted to be here tonight, but of course you all know they're playing Taconic. And if Taconic plays half as good as they are, I'm sure right now Johnny Allen wishes he was here. I do represent, I suppose, the era of the 50s. When John grew up and I grew up on State Street. You know, if you were to ask anybody in that area who were the two best athletes of the 50s, it would be Johnny Allen and Johnny Georgie. I can say this on behalf of all of us who sat at that table, they were not fun to play with. Johnny Allen weighed 176 when he was in the 8th grade. I was the second biggest guy. I was 6 feet tall, 105. The biggest argument we had every evening was who was going to tackle John. And of course, Johnny Georgie, there are two Johnny Georgies. There's the high school one who was all finesse, kind of a skinny kid. Of course, Johnny Allen did remind me of this. The Georgies were the wealthy family in the neighborhood. They had the first outdoor basketball played by John's rules. You could not foul him. You could not call it travel. John used to drive by me. I thought he took at least 8 steps to make a basket. But of course, if you said anything, that meant you were not invited for the next time to play. Then there's the second career of John. John left to go in the Marines. You know, he was this quick, thin, fast guy. All of a sudden, he comes back, he's the poster boy. He's about 200 pounds, he got muscles bending out his whole body. Now he wants us to play basketball. They put up the outdoor facilities there at Haskins School. John used to like to pin people against the steel bars. That was kind of fun for John. He had that little laugh. John also started trash talk before trash talk was really important. It had that kind of, you know, John Georgie laugh, which you all know. John used to see me about once every week. He'd say, call me over, hey, Raj, come here. Put his arm around me and say, how much money do you make? Mayor's here. I made $4,800. John would laugh. He'd say, your parents send you to 4 years of college? I make $4,800 in 3 months. And of course, he'd get me every single time I was dumb enough to count how much I made. Did I ever learn how to play sports with John? Not really. John was in the class by himself. But I did learn, and I think every other kid learned in that area, was how to compete. Made a big difference in my life. John loved being the underdog. In our day, pickup games were the life of our neighborhood. In a pickup game, if you could be the underdog, that was the position you wanted to be in. He taught me how to compete. When I was my junior year in college and I thought about leaving, it was because of people like John, who convinced me to stay and compete because I could play harder than anybody else. Now, as I'm concerned, and every other person at that table, you're a warrior. We all wanted to be Johnny Georgie when we grew up. We all want to be Johnny Georgie now. Thank you for making life what it is. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Roger. At this time, I want to introduce John's oldest son, Alan. And Alan, I'm going to ask you to stand up. Alan, your wife Nancy, stand please. And Alan has two lovely children, Alicia. Hi, Alicia. And a very personal friend of mine, Connor Georgie. And at this time, I would like to ask my personal friend, Connor Georgie, just to say a brief couple of words.
I would say, I would say to my grandpa that I love him and I hope this is the best day of his life.
Thank you very, very much, my good personal friend, Connor Georgie. Our next speaker is Larry DeMarco. Larry, who lives in Adams, Mass, and he lives with his wife, Jane, and he has two children, Mary Ann.
I became friends with John Georgie.
Yeah. What, Debbie?
I became friends with John Georgie in 1954, 55. I was a senior in high school and John was a sophomore. But after I got out of school and John went to Sturgis, he came back to town and we played a lot of basketball together for a few years in the semi-pro leagues here. And I'm not going to be redundant in saying what some of the other fellows have said about what a great athlete John was. The unique thing that I had going with John was that I tied a couple of arguments with him. I didn't win them. I tied them. I asked his wife tonight how many years they've been married. She said 42 years. Did you ever win an argument with John? Did you? Well, I tied a couple. I'll tell you how I tied it. After I quit playing ball and got into officiating, every once in a while I'd run into John on the street, and John got a memory like it was always, hey, come here. I got one for you. And he's got this play or this situation that he saw 3 months ago. This happened, this guy was here, and the official called this, and this is what I think, and what do you think? Well, so I quote him the rule and the interpretation, and it was one way or the other. John would say, well, yeah, that's what I thought. I thought that. The guy was right. Or, if I gave an interpretation he didn't like, or an opinion that he wasn't leaning towards, John would say, you gotta show me that. He would never believe you, but he wouldn't criticize you, but he'd say, you gotta show me that. Now, if I saw him the next time, and he didn't allude to that conversation, I knew I had a tie.